The new 007 game isn't what most people will expect. When most people hear new James Bond game, they instantly picture the Bond they already know. Smooth, cool under pressure, perfect suit, fast cars, luxury casinos, explosions, classic blockbuster James Bond from minute one. And then when they hear IO Interactive are making it, the same studio behind Hitman, another assumption immediately gets made that this is basically just going to be Hitman, but with Bond. And honestly, that sounds believable at first. But once you actually look at what's officially been confirmed, this game may be very different from what most people expected. And in my opinion, that's exactly why it's interesting. Because if this was just another safe, licensed action game, who really cares? But what IO seemed to be building here could actually be something much more unique. If you enjoy gaming news and deep dives like this, hit subscribe and let's get into it. The biggest surprise with this game, this is not the fully formed James Bond we all recognize. IO officially describes this Bond as a young, resourceful, and sometimes reckless recruit in MI6's training program. And that one sentence changes everything. Because think about the Bond most people know. He walks into a room and owns it. He always seems calm, always seems prepared. Even when things go badly, he somehow still looks in control. That's the classic Bond image. But this version, this is a Bond before becoming that man. Before the confidence, before the polish, before earning the famous 00 status. And honestly, that makes things way more interesting from a storytelling perspective. Because instead of stepping into the shoes of a finished legend, we actually get to see the making of one. And that changes expectations massively, because a younger Bond should naturally make mistakes, take risks he shouldn't take, act emotionally, maybe rush situations, maybe underestimate enemies, maybe let ego get in the way. That creates tension, because if Bond starts as perfect, there's nowhere for the character to grow. But if he starts rough around the edges, now you've got a proper story arc, I guess. And what makes this even more interesting is how that could affect gameplay. Because if this Bond is less experienced, maybe missions won't always feel clean. Maybe stealth goes wrong, maybe plans collapse, maybe you're forced into improvisation instead of executing everything perfectly. And honestly, that sounds more exciting than simply playing as an already flawless super spy. Because rather than being Bond from minute one, this could be actually becoming Bond. And that's a much stronger hook for a game, especially for people tired of predictable license experiences. But even if all of that sounds promising, there's still one giant question hanging over this game. Is this basically just Hitman with James Bond slapped on top? Now let's address the obvious. Yes, IO Interactive made Hitman. Yes, 007 First Light uses IO's Glacier engine, the same technology family behind Hitman. So naturally, people immediately accept stealth-heavy gameplay. Careful planning, observation, disguises, infiltration, silent spy-style missions. And to be fair, that expectation isn't unreasonable, because a lot of what makes Hitman great actually fits Bond surprisingly well. High security locations, social manipulation, thinking your way through danger, spycraft. That all sounds very James Bond, but officially IO is making it clear this is not simply a Hitman clone, because they're calling this a narrative action adventure game. Now that wording matters a lot, because Hitman is methodical, slow, calculated, almost puzzle-like. You study a level, watch guard patterns, learn routines, execute the perfect plan. If it goes wrong, restart. That's how Agent 47 works. But Bond isn't built like that. Bond is more chaotic, more physical, more improvisational. He gets into trouble, he escapes danger at the last second, he gets into car chases, gunfights, explosions, messy spy situations. And IO have actually hinted directly at that difference. One of the gameplay directors talked about forward momentum gameplay. It basically suggests this won't be the slow stop-start pace of traditional Hitman. Instead, missions should keep moving, stealth may absolutely still be there, but quicker, more dynamic, less stand and wait, more adapt and keep going. And honestly, that's probably exactly what this game needs, because if this just feels like Agent 47 wearing a tuxedo, people will call that lazy instantly. But if IO manages to combine the intelligence of Hitman with the blockbuster energy of Bond, that's where this gets exciting. Imagine smart infiltration mixed with cinematic escapes, stealth mixed with action, spy gadgets mixed with combat, proper interactive Bond thriller. That's the dream. But it also creates pressure, because balancing those two identities won't be easy. And that's why this game is genuinely fascinating right now. Its ceiling is incredibly high, but so is the risk. So officially, this isn't the Bond most people seem to expect. And it doesn't sound like the Hitman clone many assumed either. A younger, more reckless James Bond, faster, more action-focused spy gameplay, that actually sounds much more interesting than a generic licensed game. But the big question is, can IO actually pull it off? Potential masterpiece or overhyped risk? Let me know in the comments, guys.